Imagine spending $60, $70, even $80,000 on a brand new 4x4 Ute, driving it off the lot, feeling like an absolute legend, and then 6 months later, realizing you bought the completely wrong one for your lifestyle. That is not just a bad day. That is a financial nightmare that thousands of Australians are living through right now, and today, we are going to make sure you are not one of them. Stay with me, because what I am about to share could literally save you thousands of dollars and years of regret. Welcome to the Drive Intel, the channel where we cut through the marketing noise and give you the real information you need before making big automotive decisions. If you are new here, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now and smash that like button, because we drop content like this every single week, and you do not want to miss it. Now let us get into it, because there is a lot to cover, and every single part of this matters. So here's the truth that car dealerships do not want you to know. The 4x4 Ute market in Australia is absolutely booming right now. The Ford Ranger, Toyota HiLux, Isuzu D-Max, Mitsubishi Triton, Nissan Navara, and the Mazda BT-50 are fighting for your money harder than ever before. And because of that fierce competition, marketing has become incredibly sophisticated. These companies are spending millions of dollars to make every single Ute look like the perfect one for you. But here is the thing. They are not all the same, and your specific needs, your lifestyle, your budget, and how you actually plan to use this vehicle should be the deciding factors, not a shiny advertisement or a salesperson who works on commission. Let us start from the very beginning. Before you even walk into a dealership or start scrolling through car websites at midnight, you need to ask yourself one critical question. What am I actually going to use this Ute for? This sounds simple, but you would be shocked at how many people skip this step entirely. Some people buy a heavy-duty 4x4 Ute because it looks tough and capable, but they spend 95% of their time driving on city roads and highways. Others buy a more comfortable, lifestyle-oriented Ute when what they actually needed was something that could handle serious off-road tracks and heavy towing every single weekend. Getting this wrong is where the regret begins. If you are a tradie, someone who is on job sites every day, loading tools, towing trailers, and putting real kilometers on your vehicle in tough conditions, then your priorities should be payload capacity, towing rating, engine torque, and durability. The Toyota HiLux has built an almost legendary reputation in the tradie community for a reason. It is reliable, it holds its value extremely well, and it can take an absolute beating. The Isuzu D-Max is another serious contender here. It has one of the highest payload ratings in its class, and its diesel engine delivers strong torque that tradies absolutely love. Both of these vehicles are built with work in mind, and if that is your world, you really should have these at the top of your shortlist. But now let us talk about the Ford Ranger, because this is where things get really interesting. The Ford Ranger has become the best-selling vehicle in Australia. Not just the best-selling Ute, the best-selling vehicle overall, and that tells you something massive. The Ranger has managed to appeal to both work users and lifestyle users at the same time. The newer generation Ranger, especially in the Wildtrak and Raptor variants, offers technology and comfort that genuinely rivals some mid-size SUVs. We're talking about a 12-inch touchscreen, wireless Apple CarPlay, a clever rear camera system, and a suspension setup that makes daily driving genuinely comfortable. If you want one vehicle that can do it all, take the family on a weekend adventure, tow a boat, handle a job site, and still feel premium on the highway, the Ranger deserves very serious consideration. However, and this is a big however, the Ford Ranger is not perfect. And this is exactly the kind of thing the Drive Intel exists to tell you. Some owners, particularly those doing serious heavy-duty towing on a regular basis over long distances, have reported that the 10-speed automatic transmission can run a bit warm and needs to be managed carefully. The Ranger is also priced at a premium compared to some competitors, and certain variants have had longer than expected wait times due to supply chain issues. So if you need a vehicle urgently, that could be a real problem. Now let us talk about something that almost nobody discusses when buying a Ute, and that is the real cost of ownership over 5 years. The purchase price is just the beginning. You need to factor in fuel costs, servicing intervals and costs, insurance, depreciation, and the cost of any accessories or modifications you plan to add. The Toyota HiLux, for example, tends to have a higher resale value than most of its competitors. That means even if you pay a little more upfront, you might actually come out ahead when it is time to sell or trade in. The Isuzu D-Max has longer service intervals, which means you are spending less time and money on routine servicing compared to some competitors. These might seem like small details, but over 5 years, they add up to thousands of dollars. Let us also talk about fuel economy, because diesel prices in Australia are not exactly going in a friendly direction lately. The Mitsubishi Triton, with its newer 2.4-liter turbo diesel engine, has made some impressive claims around fuel efficiency. And in real-world testing, it actually performs reasonably close to those claims, which is honestly more than you can say for a lot of Utes. The Mazda BT-50, which shares its platform with the Isuzu D-Max, also delivers solid fuel economy and has been praised for its ride quality and interior refinement. If you are doing a lot of highway kilometers and fuel costs are a major concern, these two should absolutely be on your radar. Speaking of the Nissan Navara, this is one that has had a somewhat complicated reputation over the years. The older generation Navara had some well-documented rear suspension issues that really damaged consumer trust. Nissan has worked hard to address these concerns, and the current generation Navara is a genuinely improved vehicle. But if you are in the market for a used Navara, you need to do your homework very carefully and know exactly which model year you are looking at. This is the kind of detail that can turn a bargain into a money pit, and nobody wants that. Now, let us get into the whole 4x4 versus 4x2 debate, because a lot of people in Australia are still confused about this. If you are buying a Ute primarily for city driving, suburban errands, and the occasional camping trip where you stay at established campgrounds, you honestly might not need a full 4x4 system. A 4x2 or rear-wheel drive Ute will be lighter, slightly more fuel efficient, and usually a bit cheaper. However, if you genuinely love getting off the beaten track, if you are doing Fraser Island, the Gibb River Road, or any serious four-wheel drive terrain, then a proper 4x4 with low-range gearing is absolutely non-negotiable. Do not let a salesperson convince you that a 4x2 will handle serious off-road situations, because it absolutely will not. And while we are talking about off-road capability, let us get into something really important. Ground clearance, approach angles, and departure angles matter enormously when you're on serious tracks. The Ford Ranger Raptor, with its Fox racing shocks and significantly higher ground clearance, is genuinely in a different league off-road compared to a standard Ranger, but it also costs significantly more, and it is not the most practical vehicle for towing heavy loads because of its sport-tuned suspension. The GWM Ute, which is a Chinese brand that has been making some serious waves in Australia recently, offers impressive specs at a much lower price point. It has been getting attention for its value proposition. But long-term reliability data is still limited and resale value remains an unknown. If you are the kind of person who keeps a vehicle for 10 or more years, that might not matter to you. But if you plan to sell in 3 to 5 years, you might want to stick with more established brands. Let us talk about accessories and modifications, because in Australia, UT culture is absolutely real, and the aftermarket industry is enormous. A lot of buyers plan to add a tub liner, a canopy or hard lid, a bull bar, driving lights, a lift kit, and possibly a rooftop tent. These additions are fantastic, but they come with real cost, and they can affect your payload rating and potentially your warranty. This is something you need to discuss with your dealer before you sign anything. Adding heavy accessories to a Ute that already has a relatively low payload capacity could mean you are technically overloading the vehicle with just a full tank of fuel, 2 adults, and some gear in the back. That is not just a legal issue, it is a safety issue. Towing capacity is another area where the marketing numbers and the real-world numbers can feel very different. Most Utes advertise their maximum braked towing capacity, which sounds impressive on paper, but that figure assumes ideal conditions, a perfectly maintained vehicle, and often does not account for the weight of passengers, fuel, and accessories already in the vehicle. When you factor all of that in, your actual usable towing capacity can be notably lower than the advertised figure. If towing is a big part of why you're buying a Ute, please have a very detailed conversation with your dealer about gross vehicle mass, gross combined mass, and tow ball download ratings. These numbers matter, and they will save you from dangerous situations on the road. The driving experience is also something worth discussing because Utes have come an incredibly long way in terms of comfort and refinement. If you remember driving a Ute from 10 or 15 years ago, the experience was quite agricultural, meaning stiff, noisy, and not particularly pleasant for long distances. Today is completely different. Modern Utes like the Ranger and the D-Max offer a ride quality that can genuinely surprise you with how smooth and comfortable they are, especially when loaded up. However, an empty Ute with a solid rear axle can still feel quite bouncy and unsettled on corrugated roads, which is just the physics of the platform. If you are doing a lot of empty driving on rough back roads, this is something to keep in mind. Now here is something that the Drive Intel really wants you to think about before you make your final decision. Go and actually drive these vehicles back to back on the same day if you possibly can, not just a quick spin around the dealership block either. Ask for a proper extended test drive. Take it on the freeway, take it around some tighter streets, try to load something in the tray. The difference between how these Utes feel in real-world conditions can genuinely surprise you, and sometimes the one you thought was going to be your top pick falls to the bottom of the list after you actually spend time behind the wheel. Also, do not underestimate the importance of the dealership network in your area. If you are buying a Ute for work and it needs to go in for a service or a warranty repair, You want a dealership that is close, responsive, and has a good reputation. Toyota and Ford both have extensive dealer networks across Australia, including in regional and rural areas. Some of the newer or less common brands might save you money on the sticker price, but leave you with a 2-hour drive every time something needs attention. For city buyers, this might not matter much. For regional buyers, it could be a deal breaker. Let me also bring up the current market conditions because they are worth understanding. Used car prices in Australia have been elevated for a while now, and while things are starting to normalize a little, good used Utes in popular configurations are still holding strong value. If you're considering going used to save money, the savings might not be as significant as you expect, and you will also be missing out on the latest safety technology, which on some newer models includes autonomous emergency braking, lane keeping assist, and blind spot monitoring. These features are genuinely valuable, not just for your safety, but for insurance purposes as well. So, what is the bottom line here? What should you actually do? Start by getting crystal clear on your primary use case. Write it down if you have to. Then build your shortlist based on the features that matter most for that use case. Research the total cost of ownership, not just the drive-away price. Go for those extended test drives and pay attention to how the vehicle actually makes you feel, because you are going to spend a lot of time in it. Talk to actual owners in forums and Facebook groups. Australians who own these vehicles are usually incredibly generous with sharing their honest experiences, both the good and the bad. And do not let anyone rush you into a decision, because a car purchase of this size deserves the time and research it takes to get right. The 4x4 Ute market in Australia is genuinely exciting right now. There has never been more choice, more capability, or more technology available at this price point. But with so many strong options comes the very real risk of making the wrong choice if you are not properly informed. That is exactly why we make content like this at the Drive Intel, to make sure you walk into that dealership with confidence, clarity, and the knowledge to ask the right questions and get the right answers. If this video helped you today, please drop a comment below and tell us which Ute you are leaning toward and why. We read every single comment, and we genuinely love hearing about your experiences and your decision-making journey. If you know someone who is in the market for a Ute right now, do them a huge favor and share this video with them. It could genuinely save them from a very expensive mistake. And if you have not subscribed yet, hit that button right now because we have got more in-depth vehicle breakdowns, buying guides, and real-world reviews coming your way very soon. Until next time, drive smart, stay informed, and we will see you in the next one.